Hi, I'm Dan. I'm the developer for Danger Zone, and this video will give you about 14 different quick dangers that you can set up in zones that can be used to build maps or during gameplay to add some environmental effects that might be standard across a lot of different scenes. If you're new to Danger Zone, feel free to watch this, but there's an intro video for Foundry Virtual Tabletop version 13, that I just put out about 2 weeks ago for use of Danger Zone on that platform, and that walks through the basics of using the module. So I won't be covering much of the basics here. To get started, I'll show you where to go to see the dangers that we'll be talking about. That's on the scenes area, and click dangers. They'll pull up. These are all the different dangers I've set up for this video. And to trigger dangers, you want the executor. So I'm going to click into the zones on the left side, actions here, and that just launches the executor. And you can see I have 14 global or world zones set up. What is a world zone? A world zone is is a danger that has the world zone part activated. And a world zone is a danger that can be triggered on any map, which means that any scene that I've activated, I'll see those buttons available. So you'll see as I activate other scenes, these will remain here. There might be others that show up that are dangers or zones that are set up just on that scene. One of the ways to know if it's a world zone is they have that little highlight of yellow on them. So you can see when I put it over the button, and I can also see the little bit of yellow on the button before I highlight it. All right, first thing I'll show you is this brazier I've set up. I have this map. I want this guy to have a little cozy fire by them as I'm building it. So let's put a brazier down. I'll click it, choose the elevation. I'll set it at 0. And there it is. That is using a JB2A animation. The other thing that comes with this that's not really easy to see on this map, but I can see if I click on Krusk, is that there is sound that was placed as part of that trigger, and also light. So how is that danger set up? Let's go in and look at it. There are 4 parts to it. The world zone, which is what I use to make it available on any scene. The light, so you can see I've set it up to be dim 60, bright 30, constrained by walls, etc. There is the lasting effect, which is the tile that's placed out. That's using the JB2A animation for that brazier. And then the sound. That's the ambient sound that's placed on the map alongside of everything. And that's coming from Sonniss, another module. There's quite a few modules I use here. Sequencer will come up also. You'll see that. JB2A, of course, with the animations, the sounds with Sonniss. We'll be talking about Tagger as well. Maps. I don't make maps, and these don't come with the module either. This one is from Eightfold Paper. I'll try to remember to point out who makes the maps that I'm showing also. Danger Zone is a way to invoke effects and images. It does not come with any sounds, images, or animations. But JB2A is a great source for that stuff, and these other modules I'm pointing out as well. All right, let's get off of this map and check out some other stuff. I'm just going to go to the forest meadow for now, because we can do a lot on this little area here. I'm going to go through a number of these. Let's start with the ability to just throw out a darkness effect. You're a GM, you're going through a battle, and someone casts darkness, and you just want to be able to put it on the map in the spot. I have a danger set up for that. I'll click on my darkness. You can see when I hover over that it shows the darkness. Click it. Again, it's prompting me for elevation in case you're, I don't know, casting it up high in the air. And let's just place that right there. Boom. So now there's a darkness effect that's come into play. This uses 2 things. It uses the Foundry darkness lighting as well as the JB2 animation. We can see that when we click into the danger. Is darkness source. This will create a darkness effect on the light. And you can see the animation I've chosen here is Magical Gloom. Lasting effect is set up with the darkness animation from JB2A. If ever you place stuff down and you just want to clear it with Danger Zone, you can clear dangers placed placeables. I'm just going to clear all of them, or you can just do tiles, lights, etc. There we go. Get that out of there. Other things you can do. I have a earthquake effect. This earthquake will cause an earthquake to happen. This is made available because I have the sequencer module enabled. It will also cause the token to be moved. And that's going to be a randomized movement, and it happens about 4,000 milliseconds in. So you can see here, Sonniss for the audio, it is an earthquake. I shut it off after 17,000 milliseconds. That's basically timed with the amount of shaking that I have going on, and I put a fade on it as well. The shaking is the canvas shake with an intensity of 7. You can see other effects, but that's also at a 17,000 duration. Both of those have no delay on them. The movement does have a delay. So you can see here I have a 4,000 milliseconds, as I mentioned. And it's randomized movement, so there is vertical and horizontal that can happen between 1 and 2 spaces or grids. Random just basically means for horizontal it's either to the left or to the right, 1 or 2 grids. Vertical means it's random up or down, 1 or 2 grids. And I can set up the elevation as well. Other things I've done is with an active effect, made them prone. You can tie it, if you're using D&D 5e, you can tie it to a saving throw before. So you could say they make a dexterity saving throw, and on a fail, apply the prone active effect. I'm not showing the active effect here because there's an issue right now with version 13 Foundry where the active effect form is not launching in Danger Zone, so that's still to be fixed. What other things we can do? Let's do some fireworks. Put that over there. So how did I do that? Let me show you. Fireworks. So one, I'm using, oops, that's flowers. I'm using a target effect, which is essentially just a visual. It doesn't place anything that lasts, like a tile. It's using sequencer as a module to generate those animations. And you can see that the firework, I have a wild card on there. So these are all JB2A fireworks to make them different colors. I put the wild card in there for my path, and I've randomized it. I've tied sound to it, and it's using a fireworks playlist that I have. So if I go into my playlists, it's a very basic one. I only have 2 sounds for it. Actually, it looks like 3. I wish I had more. But by having it on a playlist, it's going to randomize the sounds, making it sound a little bit more organic. So my fireworks look different because I have a randomization on the image, and they sound different because I'm randomizing from this playlist. The other thing that was happening there is on my trigger for my world zone, so that you can do your settings on your world zone. One of the things that I have set up is a staggered looped operation. So that means that over the course of the minimum and the max, so between 0 and 10,000 milliseconds, it is going to play fireworks. How many will it play? That's based on my loop count. So in this case, I've set this to 12. So there will be 12 fireworks that play. And staggered basically just means they could play at any time, whether or not they're grouped together or spaced apart. If I were to do them sequentially, then basically between 0 and 10,000, each of them would play, and then the next one would play, and the next one. So it wouldn't feel very organic. I could just play them all at the same time as well. That also doesn't really feel very organic. So to have it more organic, I have it staggered. Those are fireworks. Let's put some flowers down. I'll choose there. There. So it's very basic, but if you ever want to be able to just put together a map and you're like, I love these animations, but I never use them because it's just too much time, you can just put together a little flowers thing. And now whenever you want to put flowers on a map, you can just choose your little place for them, and there they go. How's that set up? Basically, it's pretty straightforward. You got the lasting effect with pre-scene, which just places the tile. Plant growth is what I'm using from JB2A. I put a wildcard there and randomized it. The other thing that's going on here is what we just saw. I have a loop of 3. I put it sequentially because I'm basically using this not in-game, but as to build maps. So I just want to sequentially means the other thing I should show is I'm choosing the location. That's another important part of that. So targets on the world zone is to choose location. I have that selected so that when I, as a GM, invoke it, I get to choose where they go versus them being placed randomly by the zone effect. I could put a fog down, just like darkness, but fog. So you see a big effect there. Right now the trigger is basically the location is the top left-hand corner of where you're placing it down. I know that's not ideal. You probably want to choose the center. But right now that's just how Danger Zone works. It's something I'm working on. Here it's very similar to darkness. It's just the light that I'm using effect is here I'll show you. I don't think this thing has vision enabled. Let's do that. So I can walk into the fog, no problem, but I can't see in there. So the fog is just like darkness. There's a light. It's a darkness light, but I've colored it a different color. And then there's the JB2A fog cloud animation. Let's clear that out. Let's place down a couple of things that we're going to use the portal module for is to place out some tokens. So let's just say you're in this case I'm in a field, but let's just say I'm in a town and I want to hail a commoner to come into the tavern. So I've just set up this animation here. I'm going to put them at ground level. Let's put them right there. And you see that both when I place it, I got navigated to look at them, but then they also said something. What was going on there? So let's take a look at hailing a commoner. The canvas effect I used to pan. So that pans to the location to draw attention to the fact that there was a commoner being placed. I put the delay on that at 500 milliseconds. There's also the token spawn. That's what puts out the commoner. There's no delay on that, so that happens first. It pulls out the commoner because they're one of my actors here, and I've just put their name there. I've said they're a mutation target. I don't have a mutation set, but you could essentially put them out and then change something about them once you put them out here, where you'd want to change their name or whatever. Token says is the final thing you saw, which was the chat bubble. That came in after about 1500, as you can see, milliseconds. It chatted. What did it know what to say? I'm using a roll table for that. So here's a roll table. It's going to say something different each time, but it's going to pull from these roll tables. And you can see here, Succubus Temptations, which comes with D&D 5e. There's 6 different things it might say. So we can see that again. Back it up. Put one there. There you go. As opposed to summoning commoners, I'm in a field, so maybe there's an angry bad tree. So in that case, some leaves play. There's also that pan. This one was a little quicker. Leaves played, and then the tree came out. So that's called Hail Mean Tree. There's the pan effect. That starts right away first. Then there's the showing of the leaves. I should have randomized that. Let's do that. And then there is the token says. That includes spawn tokens. So that means that you can put the token out and provide that this is delayed to happen after the token comes out. It will trigger the saying then and target that spawned token. What does it say? Succubus Temptations is the roll table that it's using. And there's no sound tied to this, but you could do that too. By having it as a roll table, it will be random. That's using the token says module. That's why it's called that. That's basically everything there. And what you can see here is there's really, I don't think any, oh, the one thing I would say is I unchecked choose elevation. You didn't see that, but I'm still choosing the location. Let's go to another area to, oh, I guess I'll show you this too. You can do more of a weather fog versus the fog cloud. So there you go. You have a little fog effect that comes into play. And it's only for a short amount of time. What's this using? This is using a FXMaster as the module you need. You have a few effects options that come with the product, but those cause a scene to re-render when you use them because you're saving to the scene. Let me show you what the short fog looks like. It's using FXMaster, the fog from that. These are the different settings that I'm using, but you can choose whatever. I put a little tint on it, and I set a duration. That means that it comes out and it only lasts that long, and then it's removed. All right, let's move on. I'm going to go to a dark area now because we're going to do some effects that use light. All right, I have a couple of campfires on here. Let me clear those out. I can't remember if those are from my testing. So if you're ever testing out your stuff, that's what the clears help do, is you can just remove them. But what you were seeing there is I had a campfire, which is similar to the brazier. And throw it out there and it puts out a little campfire just like that. Other things that you can do on a dark scene like this. So I'm not going to show that. It does use a JB2A animation. This is a MapGuffin map. But it's very similar to brazier. It's just a different animation and maybe a different lighting, but there's still a sound on there as well. Let's just say there's a thunderstorm and you want to have a lightning strike. So a couple things going on there. There's of course the image, which is the primary effect. A lightning strike, that's a JB2A animation. There's also the sound, an audio from Sonniss, which is the thunder strike. That's the sound of thunder that happens. I delay it about 1,000 milliseconds because that gives it a more of a organic feeling, natural feeling. Then there's a light, and you saw that there's actually a flash of light that comes up there. So I put a color on it, and I also set a post-creation event. So after the light's created, after 1500 milliseconds, it will just delete it. You can also just turn it off, but why keep the light on the scene if you don't need it? There's a little bit of a flickering light animation on there too. So all those three things together, you can see it's very quick and easy to set that type of thing up. But Now I have a lightning effect that I can do whenever I want. In this case, it's randomized throughout the scene, but if I wanted to choose where it was, I could change how my world zone's set up. Another very similar one is an explosion. So let's do an explosion here. This has a lot going on. There's that brief light, just like the lightning, this one lasts shorter. There's the audio, of course, that's from Sonniss, big explosion. The canvas has a little bit of a shake to it. That only lasts 2,000 milliseconds. Were there tokens in that area, they would be moved. So I had a movement effect on there. I don't have any tokens going on. Primary effect is the actual explosion that we saw. I increased the scale of it. There's a token interaction component, a dexterity saving throw where they take damage. Why don't we throw a token out there and see how this all works? Let me see what the targets are. This one says always targets a token, so I don't have to choose location because if I have a token out there, this danger is coming for it. Let's throw out an ape. It's always fun to pick on the apes. I'll just put the ape there, and boom. They have to roll their saving throw. So let's see, a lot of chat stuff going on, but let's just see what happened there. They succeeded their saving throw. So if I go into my danger here, and I look at my interaction, again, this is D&D 5e. You need that in order to have the saving throw and the damage. It just makes sense in that module and not others. I mean, sorry, that system. If I have a success, they will not move. So because they succeeded, we did not see them move, but they still had half damage on save. So the half damage took effect in that way. Let's see, do I have any other fun stuff for this? I think we've gone through all of these. Flowers, torch. I'll show you the torch in another one. Fog. Yeah, we've done everything basically. So let's go into 2 other scenes here and then be done with this. So first off, what I'll show you is some interesting stuff that you can do with helping throw like torches into a map as you're building a map. I'm going to go into another scene, this one by Eightfold Paper. They put out some wonderful, beautiful maps that I love. Check out their Patreon. So here's a torch, and I'm going to click it and I'll show you how it works and I'll explain it. Alright, so let's just take a look at how that worked. I have now 4 torches out. There are 3 on the outer wall, 1 on the inner wall. And when I was putting those down, you were seeing that I was selecting this middle area here, this row of grids. So how did they end up on the outside? And the other thing I'll show you here is that not only is the image on the outside, the light is connected to the image, and the sound is as well. There's some sound that comes with this. So, and then I also placed out 4 at once. So let me show you how that is all set up on Torch. First is the light. I mean, that's very basic settings here, but what I want to show you is the offset. So there's an offset option. This comes with some of the dangers, some of the parts. I set a %, and that is both on the X, so that they seem off position in some cases. They're not always going to be center of the grid. It just doesn't look natural. And how often are walls in the center of a grid? They're usually off to the top or the bottom or the right or the left. So I wanted some kind of randomization to offset the lighting horizontally. This is less because I'm going along the wall, so whatever, it just kind of looks a little bit more natural. So I put a 0 and a 50. So 50% from the target center, it will go left or right, basically of grid distance. And I mirror that, so in order to go left or right, I put a mirror on it. And that's mirroring the location as well as the radius of the light. The other thing is, between 0 and 50 means that it could not put any offset on it, or it could be up to 50%. It's a range, and it could go right or left, and that's what the mirror does. I don't know if I explained that well enough. There's a Y offset also, and this is more important because I was mentioning I was going across this middle row. The Y offset is fully 120% min and max. That means it's always going to be 120%. And so the Y offset, naturally, if it's 120%, is going to be down. It's just basically from where I click, it'll go 120% and just line this wall. If I wanted all my torches to be on the outer side of the wall, I would just do that and be done with it. But because I wanted some on the inside for the troops, along their wall, I wanted also to place some up top. So I did the mirror on that, and so that means that sometimes the torches were placed on the bottom, sometimes they were mirrored up, but in both cases 120% from the center. And so what is the utility of that? Well, if I shrunk it down, you can think of times where you're going along a hallway on a map and you want a torch along the walls, but the way Danger Zone out of the box will work without an offset is it's going to put torch right in the dead center of the grid. So if you put a 50% or 45 or whatever % offset and did a mirror on that, you could have torches on the top or the bottom, just like you're seeing here. I did 120% here because I was working across essentially a wider hall than just this center one. Similarly, if you wanted to do one going down vertically down a hallway, or if I were to want to do one going down vertically this way, I would need to build another danger very similar to this one, but just that had the offset not on the vertical, but on the horizontal instead. Okay, the other thing I'll just share there is that the trigger did have a loop on it that allowed me to put out a bunch of torches at once versus having to click that button every single time to put out a torch. So if you're going to be lining a hallway with a bunch of torches, you can always just put out a loop. If you want to cancel a loop, you just right click and it will cancel out of the loop. Why not set it to 10 and just line a hallway with torches going down, or several hallways or whatever. So that's just there to try to help you build your maps quicker. That's one way that you can think about it. All right, I've covered a lot here. One last thing I'm going to cover, and I'll be done, is a more complex type of operation. I'm going to go into the bridge component of the Bearded Bastion. And to show this last one, I'll just kick it off now. But it's essentially, up here, there's a cannon, and it's going to rain down boulders onto these apes. It was covered by some of that chat. Let me kind of collapse this stuff down here. Let me do that again. So you can see there's some damage on these apes that are happening. I'm not applying it. You can actually set your damage to auto apply, but in this case, I don't want my apes to die as I'm previewing this type of thing. So what's going on with that? Where's the boulder coming from? How does it know where to come from? And then how does it know what to do as part of the overall danger? So what you do see is this is kind of gray versus the yellow from the world zone. So I actually do have this set up on the map as just a zone, but we can look at the world zone or the danger first, because essentially it doesn't really matter. You get the same effect if I'm using the world zone in this case. Cannon shot, boom. We have the audio of the cannon. There is the target effect, which is the sound of the explosion when the cannonball hits. That's audio on the target effect. I have a delay on that, so it's delayed 1,000. So that allows time for the image or the animation to happen, and then you hear the explosion when the animation completes. The animation is a boulder. That's a JB2A animation as well. It's randomized in this case. And it's coming from a source. Source to target is chosen because there's a source on the map. The source is the cannon, and the target is the target that the danger targets when it's triggered. I have it as played on source areas, and what I'll show you is the source in this case is a tile. So it's not a token. If I wanted to play it from a source actor, I would choose this, or I could do both. But in this case, it's a source area. There's my tile there. That's my source. How does it know that this is the source? Well, as I mentioned, I'm not using the world zone in this case. I'm using a zone set up on the scene. So if I go into that scene, this is my cannon shot, and I find my source setting. It's using the tag danger zone cannon. That's saying my source has this tag on it. So that's my source area is grids containing tagged placeables with this tag on it. So when this is looking for showing a visualization or a source from the scene for the source to target, it's looking for that tag, and this guy here has that tag, which would mean that if I copied this and just put another one out, let me find this. Why can't I move that? Oh dear. Alright, well, I don't know why that's giving me a problem here. Sorry, I'm going to have to refresh because Foundry kind of froze when I was trying to paste in that tile. But what I was trying to show you is that with the tiles, oh, I have 4 now, check that out. So all these tiles have that same tag on it. Now that I have 4, I can trigger that again, and I should see that there are cannon shots. Coming from them. You saw in that case 3. It's choosing different ones each time. That just shows the top one. That shows the top 3. So how does it know what to choose? It's all random. A lot of this is randomized because they're environmental organic effects. So here are my sources. On my source setting for this zone, and these guys are on here, I have a quantity. So how many sources are involved when this triggers? It's anywhere between 1 and 4, and that's why it will randomly go through all the different options and choose between 1 and 4 to play the effect from as the source. It's a little kind of probably confusing in some cases if you haven't gone through and tried this all, but basically that's what source is there for. It gives you a way to have like a big bad evil person that's part of the scene that invokes effects on the scene, but in this case you can do it for cannons like in a ship battle, as are shown here. I think I've shown you probably everything important about this effect. There is a source effect that plays, so it will play smoke off of the source when, and that's a JB2 animation as well. When it triggers, there's a little bit of a delay on that. So you can have an effect play on a source. In this case, you saw that there were saving throws involved, dexterity and so forth, and damage. We've already seen how that all works. And I don't think there's really any other items here that need to be shown. Aside from the fact that I have this to always target a token, that's why it's not just spraying random boulders everywhere. It's always targeting the apes. All right, I covered a lot there. I didn't want to make a very long video, but I wanted to give you at least an idea of some ways that you can just set up these world type of zones for things that are more common for how you might be going about in your game. And that way, if you ever want to just throw a campfire on a map that comes complete with the image, the light, and the sound in just 2 seconds or whatever. Now you can do that whenever you want. If you ever just want to kick off fireworks, you can do that as well. You'll notice that here I have fireworks set up on the scene, so that allowed me, if I show you, I'm going to right click on that, which you can do. I have that tied to regional dimensions, so that means that they will only happen within the region that I have set up. And as this stuff is happening, I guess it's not very easy to see here, but there's some like fog that's kicking off too. It kind of lightly comes up and it goes away. All right, my computer obviously is starting to freeze, so I'm going to stop the video here. I think I've just gone through as much computing power as my laptop can handle as an old laptop. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, find me on the JB2A Discord. Really bad at responding because I'm very busy, but hopefully someone in the community can jump in too. But check out JB2A animations, they're great, and all these different other modules that I talked about, MapGuffin and the others, the Eightfold Paper for their maps. And have a great day. Thanks.